Welcome to the Details of Life with Marcus Wilson. I am your host, Marcus Wilson, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a great episode coming up here for you. Georgia Tech men's basketball coach, Josh Pastner. You talk about high-level basketball. I mean, this guy was a player coach at Arizona, so you know exactly what that means. He was a player and he was coaching on that 97 really good Arizona team that won the national championship. Jason Terry, Miles Simon, Michael Dickerson, Mike Bibby. He was coaching those guys as a player. And then, continued on, became an assistant at Arizona, went to Memphis. Well, first of all, let's not skip over the fact that he was an assistant under the great Lute Olson. Went to Memphis as an assistant under the great John Calipari. Took over the job there at age 32, won Coach of the Year in that conference, had some success there, went on from Memphis, and he's now the head coach at Georgia Tech. So he hasn't been in any mid-majors. I mean, it's high-level basketball across the board with him. And I'll say this, and you'll pick up from this. He's a really nice, genuine guy. It sounds like a normal statement, like people should be that way, but I'm telling you, in college basketball, egos run really big. Egos run really big, and he doesn't have one. Really cool, down-to-earth type of guy, and I think you're going to learn a lot. We talked about all those things I just talked about, coaching under Lute Olson, Calipari. What was that like? The transition when Calipari left, trying to, uphold that high standard that Calipari had when he was there, and what it's been like to try to rebuild a Georgia Tech program in the ACC. They just finished 5th this year. A lot of people don't realize how good they were this year. So a lot of good things, a lot of good nuggets. So let's go ahead and just chime in with Georgia Tech head coach Josh Pastner. Like I just prefaced, today we have head coach of Georgia Tech men's basketball, Coach Josh Pastner. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing well, Marcus. Hope you're well. Hope you and your family are staying safe and well. And I wish everyone, out there staying safe and well and healthy. And I just want to give a quick shout out to all the first responders, healthcare workers, and anyone that's keeping society going in this time period. So you all are true heroes. Just a great shout out from my standpoint and the Georgia Tech men's basketball. Just want to say a big thank you to everybody.
It's a good point, man. Thank you for doing that. It's a lot of people out there making our lives a lot easier right now. So cool. Yeah. Exactly right. So we'll dive right in. We're going to cover a lot, but I want to take it back to the beginning. I was doing some research on you when I was prepared for this, and rumor has it that you were doing scouting reports at the age of 13 in the Houston area of local high school players, and around the age of 16 or 17, you were already coaching AAU basketball. Is that true?
Yeah, Marcus. When I was I remember when I was in 5th grade, I was watching the Celtics versus the Lakers on one of those national networks. And I remember turning to my father and saying, I want to stay in the game of basketball the rest of my life. But I said, if I couldn't play in the NBA, the next best thing I felt was coaching, because you stayed in the adrenaline rush in a sense. You could affect winning and losing in a way. And so it kept you in the game. And I remember from then, I really put a lot of my energies towards that. Yes, I still worked hard as a basketball player, and I did all I could because I wanted to play in the NBA. But I also recognized, based on my parents' height and athletic genes they gave to me, I probably wasn't going to get to that next level, but to that level at that highest level there. So I put a lot of my energies towards coaching. And you're right. My dad had started a program called the Houston Hoops down in Houston, and it was one of the better AAU programs. It's become one of the better AAU programs in the country. But that time when I was 13 and playing on the team, while our game was done, like at the AAU Nationals, and all the players went back to the room to go to the mall or just hang out, I would stay at the gym and sit in the gym and just watch prospects all day long at 13 years of age. And I remember then, compiling a database of players' names at 13 and under and sending that out all across the country. And I called it Josh Pastner Scouting Service, and for 13-year-olds. And I did it for 14-year-olds, and I did it for 15-year-olds. And so I love being around the gym. I love being in a gym rat, just, watching players play. And then and that's why in recruiting, I don't mind sitting at gym from 8 in the morning to 8 at night or 10 at night. even watching players that we're not able to recruit, or I just like watching basketball. I love watching the game of basketball. And so, but then when I was 17 and 18 and 19, I started coaching the Houston Hoops. I actually was coaching when guys were, my age, and so tremendous, both boys and girls. I did both boys and girls. So tremendous opportunities. Even when you're at that time period when I was being a head coach with the Houston Hoops, I can remember many mistakes I'd made as a head coach, because when you're in that position and you're running a program and you're making decisions, I still remember things where I made mistakes on that I still take to this day, that I try not to make the same mistake. Just little things coming out of timeouts, just all types of little type of details. So I was very fortunate to have those type of experiences and opportunities early.
Man, that's a heck of a story. First of all, that you knew at that young of an age what you wanted to do, and you were already acting on it, not just tweeting about it, which tweeting wasn't around back then, but you were actually like doing your own scouting report. And I know Houston Hoops is, for anybody who is in the basketball world, they know how good Houston Hoops is. Okafor, plenty of NBA players have come out of there.
And I remember Emeka Okafor and all those guys, I was coaching those guys at that time. And when you talk about, I tell this to people all the time, I love my job. Like, I love being a head coach. I don't take a day for granted of being the head coach at a Georgia Tech, had the opportunity to be the head coach at Memphis. Marcus, if there's ever anyone that recognizes, I recognize it, that I was very, very lucky, because I was at the right place at the right time to get my first head job at Memphis. And we can talk about how all that happened. But my point is I love my job. I love what I do. I wake up every day excited with enthusiasm. And you're right, life's short. So anything that you're doing, you want to do with great passion. And I just have a great passion on what I do. And I'm very thankful that I've had the opportunities to do that.
Well, that's clear, because you've always been one of the best recruiters in the country. And I'm sure that passion and that energy is one of the reasons why you've been able to have great relationships with, guys that you're out recruiting. And so you're right, we will get to that, but I want to, kind of take it step by step. And so how did you get I know you were a player at Arizona, but maybe some people didn't know that, but how did you get your break, and who gave you your break into coaching? And then also, if you can kind of take us from there to how you landed to where you are now.
Yeah, when I was a senior in high school, I actually wrote a letter to every single Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA Division I, and NAIA Division II schools in America. Over 1,000 personal handwritten letters I sent to every school in America. And one of the schools that it caught the attention was Coach Lute Olson at the University of Arizona. I put in a letter there that I was a good player in my mind. I was a hard worker, et cetera, et cetera. And Coach Olson looked at the letter and probably said he can work the guys out, watch film, and it won't count against the time limit with the NCAA rules. He can organize, extra shooting sessions and everything else at night. And
he knows the game as well as any of our coaches.
I think he'll be a head coach in the NBA.
He's got a good feel for the game, a good knowledge, and he wants to learn.
You may think Arizona freshman Josh Pastner just sits there quietly on the bench, earning his scholarship and waiting for his chance to play. Well, in reality, this 19-year-old from Kingwood, Texas, has come to Arizona to learn to become a coach.
Knowing I want to be a coach, I've always want to have a chance to learn under one of the best in the country, and that is Lute Olson.
And so thank goodness, for Coach Olson. I mean, the opportunity that he gave me, I just, I can't even put words into it to describe the opportunity that he allowed me. And my freshman year, when I was at the University of Arizona, was when we won the national championship, the 1997 national championship. We beat Kentucky in the title game. We're the only team ever to beat 3 1 seeds along the way. We beat Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky along the way. So
you had a heck of a team that year. I remember that. I think it was the Final Four Indianapolis that year?
It was in Indianapolis in 1997. We had our guard play was just exceptional.
Mike Bibby, Miles Simon, Michael Dickerson.
Perry, Michael Dickerson. Three of those four guys were lottery picks, and Miles Simon was most outstanding player and a second-round pick. So we had some great guards. That's my theory. Guard plays everything. You got good guards, you got a better chance to win. And our Arizona teams had some great guards. And so, but anyway, I knew I wanted to coach, Marcus. And I was there at Arizona. I was able to get my bachelor's and master's there. I worked my way up and was able to stay on, at that time as an undergraduate assistant coach, then as the video coordinator. And then, I just kept trying to work my way up. And then I got a great break by Coach Olson, gave me an opportunity to move up the ladder and stay on as an assistant coach there at the University of Arizona. And that's kind of where I got the break. So to be able to move into that level. And look, like I said, I skipped a lot of steps to be able to be an assistant coach at Arizona. I mean, it's one of the elite schools to be with one of the elite coaches. And so I recognize that. I get that. I know that. And so now a door opened and I had to take advantage of it and work hard at it. But I was very fortunate. So Coach Olson gave me that break, that opportunity to allow me to be at that program and then allow me to work my way up the ladder.
And so then after that, you were at Arizona, and then if I'm correct, then you went to Memphis as an assistant.
Yeah, so I went to Memphis. So I was an assistant at Arizona for a long time, and then I got Coach John Calipari had lost an assistant or two to head jobs, and he had reached out to me with seeing if I wanted to have a chance to go with him. And I thought, obviously I couldn't say no at the time. I mean, you're just the opportunity to go with Coach Calipari and to say that I've learned under Coach Olson and then to learn under Coach Calipari. And so I was there an assistant with Coach Cal. I loved being with Coach Cal as well, an incredible coach, one of the great coaches in the history of the game as well. Obviously, his success speaks for itself. So I was an assistant with him, and then he got the Kentucky job. And I was all set and planned and ready to go to Kentucky with Coach Calipari, and I was excited about that opportunity to go with Coach Calipari to Kentucky. And not for 1 second, Marcus, was I thinking about being the head coach at Memphis. John Calipari had in his final 4 years at Memphis had won more games in a 4-year stretch than anyone else in the history of the NCAA. More than John Wooden, Bobby Knight, Coach K. Nobody won more than he did in that 4 years. So who wanted to follow this guy? You know what I mean? And so nobody did. You want to be the guy that follows the guy that follows him. And so, because people would have called me during the season and be like, man, what's it like working for Calipari? I said, let me just tell you this. If this guy ever leaves Memphis, whoever follows him is a real crazy guy. Because what are you doing? And so I was excited to go to Kentucky, not thinking 1 second about being the head coach at Memphis. And then obviously they had to hire somebody, and nobody wanted to follow John Calipari. They could not hire a coach. I just happened to be the last man standing, Marcus. I was literally the last man standing. And I got an opportunity by the athletic director there, R.C. Johnson, who gave me a chance to be the head coach. And again, Marcus, to be able to skip the steps. I mean, I skipped a lot of steps to be able to be an assistant at Arizona and then to be an assistant at Memphis, but then get the head job at Memphis. Again, I recognize that people were way more qualified than me to be the head coach at Memphis. And so I got a door that opened for me. I was very fortunate. Right place, right time, got lucky. The door opened, then it was on me to take advantage of that opportunity. And then I was there for 7 years. And I loved all 7 years at Memphis. We won a lot of games, had great success. We won about 70% of our games. When you compare that to 95% of the previous 4 years, people are like, what's wrong with you? You're not winning enough.
Right.
Like usually, Marcus, 70%, you get a statue built of you.
That's
So when you're
top
being
level.
compared to 95% those last 4 years, but then I had an opportunity because of the chance I had at Memphis. Then I had the opportunity to become the head coach at Georgia Tech and coach in the ACC, one of the best league in all of college basketball. And again, just to have that opportunity has been I count my lucky stars. I don't take it for granted. There's not a second that goes by. Like you will never, Marcus, I will not complain. I just do not complain. I do know because I recognize how hard these jobs are. And I recognize the chair that I'm sitting in, and they're just so precious of jobs that you just can't take it for granted. And so, I thank the head coaches who give me the opportunity that I work for, the athletic directors, and then having the great breaks. Thank the good Lord that He gave me some opportunities to put me in those positions. And I've been at a high level, back from AAU ball to college basketball to assistant coaching to being a head coach. I've stayed at a very, very high level. So I've seen a lot, and it's been some great experiences along the way.
Yeah, you have. I mean, I know you keep saying that you have skipped some steps. We can only talk for so long today, but I know you were a hard and tireless worker. You were known as one of the best recruiters in the country. And so, but it's also good to hear the gratitude that you have for the job, because, you are, like you said, you've had high level jobs and been successful there. So, at age 42, you're still fairly young considering, basketball terms considered. And so, I remember, so at age 32, you were a head coach at Memphis, won conference coach of the year there, had some good years, like you said. 5-6 years later, because I'm from the Midwest, so I'm from Indiana, I was living in Evansville, so I followed Memphis quite a bit. And I remember those last couple of years, specifically that last year, there was a lot of pressure on you to win. Fan base was probably really tough on you. And so, here you are now, around 37, 38, still a young man, married, trying to, work on your family, trying to recruit, handling all this pressure. How did you balance all that? And was there anything that you learned along the way that you felt helped you grow or made you better today?
Yeah, great question, Marcus. Here are a couple of things. And from being in the Midwest there, the history of Memphis basketball, and you got to experience it to fully understand it. But it's like being the coach of the New York Yankees or the Green Bay Packers, or but in a 50-mile radius, if that makes sense. It might not have the national, but in that 50-mile radius, basketball in that city is the whole DNA of that city, and it's so important to the fabric of that city is basketball and Memphis basketball, the University of Memphis. So the expectations to win were at a very, very high level, and yes, the fans were on me. But I also told people I appreciated that. So many people, because the way I looked at it, that the second when people aren't frustrated when you lose a game or not having the success, then there becomes people don't care. The care factor at Memphis was so high. And so again, another thing I didn't take for granted in that area of just understanding that the fans were passionate. They loved everything about the program. And so, what happens is you can stay at a place and you can kind of understand there's the pressures, swelling a little bit. And I don't even call it pressure. It's more just the expectations in a sense. And then when the job opened at Georgia Tech and I had an opportunity to come to Georgia Tech, I just thought, man, I've been at Memphis trying to maintain it at such a high level following Coach Calipari. Like I tell people, you don't take winning for granted. Winning is hard. Even one win is hard. And so when you win, I would not take things for granted in a sense that I just enjoyed that. But what I would do is after a loss, man, it would eat at me like you wouldn't believe. It would just, because I felt I let the city down. I let the players down. I let the university or institute down. I have gotten better about understanding and I know this is a simple saying, but simplicity is powerful, literally taking it one day at a time. And if I could go back to myself when I first got the job at Memphis and really just ingrain those words into my mind and just understood it one day at a time. Again, we had really good success, but understanding one day at a time, things will usually work itself out. And I also think another big thing, Marcus, is alignment. What I learned from my time there is alignment. For the success that you need to have as the head coach, everybody around you, assistant coaches, managers, players, needs to be aligned. If everyone's not aligned, you can have breakdowns and maybe you don't have that success. I really believe my alignment, I didn't do a good enough job when I was at Memphis with alignment. I would change our system maybe a year here, a year there, and offensively, we were always good defensively, but maybe offensively I wasn't as good in some areas that we should have been because I was changing too much. As much as we won, I look back, we probably could even won more if I was, if I knew what I knew now back then. And so, but that's part, as you know, Marcus, part of the continuation of maturation of just continuing to learn and grow as a human being to be better where you are today than you were in the past.
Yeah, man, you just dropped a lot of gems right there. I will double down on what you said about Memphis, because Memphis football has picked up in recent years, but back then Memphis basketball was everything, right?
Everything.
You know, and so I do know that because
I told it brought everyone together in that city. It didn't matter your race, your financial well-being, your sexuality, gender. It didn't matter. The city rallied around. That's what made it so special. Everyone was. It was a rallying cry in that city. Was around Memphis basketball. It was such a DNA. There's no place like it. It's very hard to explain, and that's why I try to use the examples. And you understand it because you've been in that area. It's sort of like being the coach of the Green Bay Packers in a sense, because it's so much pride of the city and of what you represent. And so that's how powerful that Memphis job is.
Yeah, man. And a couple other things you said that really resonated with me is, the fact that you can look back on that and learn and have some self-reflection and not point fingers. I know you as a coach, you probably talk to your players about, look at yourself first, stop pointing fingers, and just to see that you're modeling that is refreshing. So, like you said, you do land at Georgia Tech. You're right. It's either, in my opinion, I'm from the Midwest now. The top two conferences in the country is ACC and Big Ten. It might vary from year to year, but no doubt, if not the best, one of the top two conferences in America. You land there, first year, finish second in the NIT. Next 2 years, kind of average results, bringing in your own players. That's to be expected, getting your players in the system. And this year, I don't think a lot of people realize you finished fifth in the ACC, which is tough, And so what's that process like of building up a culture, building up your program in one of the toughest conferences in America?
Yeah, Marcus, and you're right. And just to talk on self-reflection, I mean, I've you look back at everything, and each day goes by, you have a chance to really self-reflect and see where could I have gotten better. And you look at all the great leaders. So much of it is about the continuation of learning. You've heard people say when you stop learning, you've kind of stopped growing. So being able to learn, and so. But I also knew when I got the job at Memphis, and I really believe this for all coaches, it's not the first year that's the hardest, it's the second year, because you lose a lot of guys, and in the second year, you're bringing in a lot of freshmen, and you're kind of starting from ground zero. And so both years at Memphis and Georgia Tech, my second year was the hardest year because we were very, very young. And I really believe the best way to have success, and especially at a school like for us at Georgia Tech, in my belief, is that you need to get old and stay old. And trying to get older is the best way of having the best chance of success. And if I looked back at like my time at Memphis, even though my second year we ended up going to the NCAA tournament, but we struggled. And my second year here at Georgia Tech, we struggled. We had ups and downs, but both years we were very, very young. And that's just part of it. I mean, that's just part of it. And then all of a sudden you start getting a little bit better the next year because you start getting older and the guys have been back into your system are coming back. And that's just the pure maturation of trying to continue to have the program go in the direction that you want it. And then this past year, we got to fifth place by ourselves. We did things within ACC play that hadn't been done at Georgia Tech since like the mid-90s. So we did a lot of positives. Our guys just played their tails off. My assistant coaches, my staff was just phenomenal with their development. And I think, again, you got to get the ball to bounce your way as well too. When you're sitting there with 18 to 23-year-olds, depending on that individual to make or miss a shot, both whether defensively or offensively, you got to get a little breaks your way along the way as well too. So we were fortunate. We shot the ball better this year. We were able to score the ball better. One of the things in our second year, both at Memphis and here at Georgia Tech, the hardest thing to coach is when you can't score. And both years when you have a young teams, we were really struggling to score. And so that's part of the deal that makes it tough in college and in any level of basketball when you can't score. You can design any play you want, but in the end, it's putting the ball in the basket. So, but we guys were really, we had a great year this year. Now, we're older again next year. So we got to continue to move in the right direction, build on our momentum. We're going to have to get a little lucky along the way. We're not going to be a juggernaut where we're just going to over talent or overwhelm anyone. We're going to have to be really good. And another big key is Marcus, we're going to have to stay healthy. As we all know in sports, staying healthy, especially with your key guys, is part of a solution in order to have success.
No, you're exactly right. And I know how hard it is to build up a program. And like you kind of were talking about it, but that second year, you're right. Those are your guys. Those are the freshmen you went out and recruited. And so now here and this year, the guys you brought in are now upperclassmen. And so I think that's why we're seeing the success. And so obviously I think you're going to have some more continued success in the future. But after the last game, again, I do my research, Coach. And so after the last game, I saw that you showed some emotion with your guys. You're not always a overly emotional type of guy. I mean, passionate, but not like, showing emotion. So what was going on in your mind and what were you thinking and feeling at that time that it caused you to show that emotion with your guys?
Yeah. Well, first of all, in athletics, when there's nothing like coaching or being around a team. You're around your guys, your program, the players, the staff more than you are with your immediate family, like with your wife and kids in a sense. You're just, the time you spend is good, bad, or indifferent is with those guys. I mean, with your team, and so you just create this bond, and you go through highs and lows together. It's like it's a family. Days when you're in your family, you're upset with your siblings in a sense, but you're always loving them. And I remember after our first year at Georgia Tech, the night before the night before we played the NIT championship game, those guys and they played so hard for us. They left everything out on the floor, and I knew it was our last game. I knew it was our last game of the night, and that was the first time I ever got emotional with the team. And I didn't show it to our guys. I was in the film session, and man, I had to stay in strong the night before. We were in New York, and after they left, I remember I broke down because, man, I knew it was going to be our last night with that group. And I had a set because I love all of our teams, but you knew it was a finality. That was it. And because we had that ban with the postseason, where we weren't going to be able to play in the postseason tournament with the ACC tournament, that I knew was our last game. And for our guys to have played so hard and to have fought and just played their tails off, knowing that there wasn't going to be an end result past that game.
It's a 9-point victory for the Yellow Jackets. And Jose Alvarado leading his team with 19 points on the night.
It was something that was just an emotional buildup that, man, these guys left everything they had on the floor for us as a program. And so you get a little emotional about that because that's the last time you know that you're with that group. There is no tomorrow in a sense of another game. And so that being said, that's why I got emotional in the locker room, just because those guys played so hard for so long and be able to achieve some things that we were able to achieve that hadn't been done at Georgia Tech since, like I said, since the mid-90s.
I think that goes to show that the culture is right now. And the reason I say that, because even just me coaching AAU and a lot of people who follow AAU, once teams don't qualify for the Peach Jam, they're just – once an NFL team doesn't qualify for the playoffs, or once people start feeling like they don't have as much to play for, you start seeing bad basketball. So for you guys to play that hard and to give your all, knowing that that was it, man, that says a lot about you and your coaching staff and what the culture is right now. So, I know every year the goal is to win championships, probably an ACC championship and then a national championship. But besides winning championships, does your team, as a staff, do you have other goals for your team? And if so, what are they?
Yeah, look, Marcus, you're in sports because everyone's competitive. There is a reason for a scoreboard up there. There is a winner and a loser at the end of the game. And I don't care if it's AAU, high school, middle school, or the NBA. That's what makes sports fun. It's the best reality TV because you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know. Every game is unique. It's just its own deal, and you're not dealing with robots, and you can't fake it. You know what I mean? It's such a game of energy. So yes, you want to win the national championship. You want to win ACC championships. You want to win every game that you play. But two things. One, we really focused on, like, for this season, and I know, again, it's kind of everyone kind of says it, but it's easier said than actually be done. It's just getting better. And because again, you can say, well, are you getting better? But if the end result's not a win, only you as a coach, because the fans might not see it, your bosses might not see it, but you as a coach know if you're getting better. And sometimes you can't control the wins and losses. It's just, like I said, you're dealing on 18 to 23-year-olds, or if you're an AAU ball, 15, 16, 17-year-olds to make shots. So are you getting better? And that's a big thing that we really focused on this year. And the other thing, I think we put a lot of pride on things, on some stats. Like, we try to have 60% of our made field goals assisted. I think that's really important to us, because that means the ball's being shared and moved. We've done a good job at my time at Memphis and at Georgia Tech on, I always like to say, the people ask, well, who's your go-to man? I says, we don't have a go-to man. It's the open man is our go-to man. And so I'm probably a little more of an equal opportunity offense. I've always been like that. And so, we little goals like that. We'll talk. Obviously, you have defensive goals. You've got offensive goals, things with defensive and offensive rebounding. But in the end, as a coach, when you're in the program, the thing that you want to see is, are you getting better? And are you improving? And only you and your staff can recognize that, because you can be getting better and you can lose and still be getting better. It's just sometimes maybe you don't just have enough talent, or sometimes the ball's just not going your way, or you've had an injury or two, but you're getting better. And so that's what you're trying to have the piece as a coach. As even I don't care what level it is, like I said, that's a piece that you want to have as a coach, that you can see that your team is moving in the right direction and they're getting better regardless of the outcome of the game.
Yeah, that's true. And I do like the 60% of assisted field goals. And all your teams are very good defensive teams. And so I know you probably have some defensive goals. I know when I was at SLU, one of the things we try to do is get kills, 3 stops in a row, and we track those. And
we do that, and we do that as well too. That's a big thing. And I'm sure when you're at SLU, with deflections, you're going to be what you're going to emphasize. I mean, you as a coach, you can only you can't be great at 50 different things. There's only a limited time in practice. You know what I mean? And so you're going to kind of emphasize and then reinforce and be good at what the 3 or 4 things which is important to you as a coach that you want to be really good at. And you're just hoping those 3 or 4 things are going to get you the opportunity to put yourself in a position to be successful and to win some games.
Yeah. So speaking of winning games, I know next year success breeds success and it breeds more expectations. So you have 5 of your top 6 players returning, played over 26 minutes a game last year. So you have some experience coming back. You only lost James Banks. And so, are there any signees that you're excited about, and what are the expectations for your team going into next year?
Yeah, Marcus, we're older next year. We will continue to get older. We've got, like you just mentioned, we got a majority of our core group back. We do have signed 3 good freshmen. But again, they're freshmen. They're good players, but I also temper expectations with freshmen because they are freshmen, and we're going to have to do a great job with our staff, which I believe, we haven't got the 5-star elite recruit yet. We haven't been able to sign that guy, but what we've done well and we've had to survive on is 5-star development. We've tried to be all about 5-star development, just making sure that we get guys better. And so I like our freshman class that we signed, but again, they're freshmen, so it's going to take a transition period. And this, I don't care what conference it is. There's always a transition from a freshman to go from high school to college. It's a big jump. We're actively recruiting guys in the portal. This is unprecedented times. There is no recruiting offer on campus. With the visits or going to see kids at minimum at least till May 31st. That's what we know at this point. You can obviously FaceTime, conference call, Zoom, text. So this is new for all of us, and a lot of kids or a lot of recruits, whether in the transfer portal or unsigned high school seniors, and this could possibly go into the effect of high school juniors, that people are going to be making decisions sight unseen. Through virtual tours through your admissions office, in a sense, or your athletic programs. And you see that more so now than ever because of the situation.
Yeah, so that takes me to my next point. You've always been a good recruiter, and you're trying to bring in more talent to continue the success you've already built up. Like this weekend, we should be in these gyms down in Cartersville, Georgia, and all these places, in Indianapolis, watching all these teams play, but we're not. So as of now, we're not going to have as many main events and recruiting events. So do you think that's going to impact you in terms of recruitment and not being able to evaluate as much as you normally would?
You know, Marcus, I mean, and you know this because you're in the profession. I mean, you can take the top 25 players in the country and you probably don't need to evaluate. You can just say, he's an instant impact. He's really good. He's going to has a chance to be in the pros one day type deal. You know what I mean? But for everybody else, everybody else, evaluation matters. You've got to really evaluate that. And and I don't use the word recruiting as I'm more evaluating. You've got to make sure that the player that you're getting is going to be good enough, and you need to see them. So what I think is going to happen based on the circumstances is you're going to see a lot of really good players slip through the cracks and go to some schools that maybe would not have gotten these players because they're not going to be seen, if that makes sense. It could be more of a regionalized for this year, for this upcoming, for this year, where people could be going to places where it's more regionalized because, again, how do I know about a kid in California? I might know about him, but if I haven't seen him and, you might not, and yes, you can watch film and you're going to have to evaluate off film, but there's nothing like live in action person really getting a feel of seeing that prospect. So you're going to do a lot of research and calling people and that's kind of where it is. So I think people are going to slip through the cracks if they don't do anything this summer, because we all know we're done through May 31st. I think a lot of young prospects could get concerned and saying, oh my gosh, we're not going to get seen. I don't want to lose it. Let me just call this school and say, I'm coming. Do you have a scholarship? I'm taking it. And so because of the concern that they don't want to lose that opportunity without the evaluation period. So, as you know, this is just unprecedented times. And I just, and everyone's just kind of, everyone's got to follow the lead of the government and the CDC and all the health public officials of what to do next. And obviously for our world, the NC2A and even for the shoe company tournaments and the offshoot tournaments, they've got to follow the CDC guidelines too. So we're all in a holding pattern and just waiting to see what happens. But this is something that's an unprecedented time. And, it's sort of, I do believe there'll be a lot of guys, really good players that will slip through the cracks because of it.
I totally agree. That there's probably some kids that really worked on their game all last year and they were going to have breakout summers and may not get a chance to do that. And like you said, the top 4 or 5-star kid players, those are good. It's the other kids that I was watching a story about John Morant, how he was playing behind Zion Williamson and a couple other 4-star players. One went to Georgia, one went to South Carolina. Then they all went to their own – they all split teams. Yep. And then John Morant's junior year is when he really got seen, went to Murray State, rest is history. So I worry about kids like that.
Well, it's like coaching AAU ball. I mean, everyone gets on about summer basketball. I'm the exact opposite. I'm like, man, it gives so many kids so many great opportunities to be seen by – everyone focuses on the elite top 10, top 15 players in the country. I'm like, they don't need the exposure. It's the other guys who can be really good. Like you mentioned, the John Morants, they need the exposure. They need to be seen by schools to have the opportunities. And the only way to get a mass gathering in that sense of recruiting where a lot of kids can be seen at once is through summer basketball. That's just – otherwise you're going to kind of – you're going to be more regionalized based on going to high schools, which you still want to do that. But summer gives you that opportunity to see a bunch of kids at one location that's effective and efficient at the same time. So we just got to all wait to see what happens from the CDC and the health officials.
Yeah, well, let's hope. We all are missing basketball. Need our basketball fix. So one more thing about COVID-19 is normally right now guys would be in the gym working out, lifting weights, on the track, getting better. I worry about the guys who may not have their own self-determination and motivation because normally coaches would be like, hey, this is what your schedule is this week. But how do you see and how are you guys engaging your team during this time that you're not allowed to do some of the stuff you normally would?
Well, good question. And the other thing, Marcus, like I've had a couple guys who call me, Coach, we want to get into the gym. Well, Georgia Tech, you can't go to the gym. You can't even get in there to shoot. And as you know, with local health clubs, local gyms, obviously high schools, there's nowhere to go if you don't have a court or a basket in your front yard, because there's a lot of states that have actually the mayors of the cities have actually had people go and take the rims down at parks because there was too much of a gathering. So, people, at least in our sport, I mean, I got the guys, they're itching to get back into the gym. And so you're right. You've got to be very self-motivated. You've got to be unique in a way that you're going to, just by, surviving on push-ups and sit-ups, which you can, you know what I mean? And trying to be creative as you can, doing ball handling drills. But this is what I really, and it's also like, I'll give you an example for our guys, because our whole school has gone to online classes. And, everyone's saying, oh, that would be great. That would be, I've had a lot of our guys who's, coach, man, I'm ready to get back into the classroom. And I'm going to remind them on that when we get back into the classroom, if they miss wait a second, so, right. But I think this is, sometimes things get taken away from you that you just take things for granted. And I think this will be a tremendous wake-up call for everyone, and just the littlest of things, just being able to go use a gym and shoot, not taking that for granted.
Yeah, well, like I said, we're all hoping for that. Fingers crossed on that. So I'm gonna close up here, Coach, and let you get back to your life. But one of the things I always do on Details of Life is I usually am bringing someone on who's had some level of success and try to figure out what are some of the things that they've done to reach there. So you've obviously coached at a high level, Memphis, Arizona, Georgia Tech, won Coach of the Year in different conferences, been through some adverse times in your life, done a lot of good things, and you're still only 42. So are there any things that you do, whether it's habits or daily routines or anything that you feel gives you opportunity and helps separate you from others and put you in position for success?
Well, you know what? I don't know if it separates me, but I'm a big believer in attitude, and I'm a real positive guy, Marcus. I mean, life is very short. Things go by quick, as we all see, even, with all of what's going on with the virus, with COVID-19. So, it's everything is, life is short, but I'm a very, very positive guy. Even when things, even when you get punched in the mouth or punched in the gut, not literally, but figuratively in a sense, or you've dealt with adversity, how to find the positive silver lining out of it. And I like to always say, I try to always look at the glass as overflowing, not half empty or half full, but overflowing. So, for me, a lot of it's just more of a mindset. I'm always looking at a positive, way of life. I think that's really, really important. And especially during these times when there can be, really tough times, to try to find some positivity out of anything that you can. And it's, again, I get it. It's easier said than done. It's easy to say, hey, just be positive, but everyone goes through tough times. But you've got to try to remain positive. And I also think, a really good, opportunity to do the best you can to, I try to every day work out, because more so than the physical health, I think it really allows you to be good mentally. And when I say good mentally, it allows you to be a clear thinker, not let little things maybe bother you, being able to take care of yourself the best that you can. And whether that's whatever that may be, whether that's going for a walk or some form of physical activity to try to keep you as good as it is physically, it's probably even more important for you mentally, so you can always stay clear in times, because again, life is short. Every breath is a gift. I tell people every breath is a gift. Every heartbeat's a gift. And when you have your health, and you see in this day and age, when you have your health, you really are a true billionaire when you really have your health, because nothing else matters.
You're exactly right. And you were talking about attitude, and one of my friends told me when I was going through a tough time a few years back, he said, Marcus, the mind can be a prison or a playground. It's your choice. And so, it sounds like you embrace that positive attitude. So, Coach, thank you so much for spending this much time with me and being this transparent about your career, and looking forward to seeing you back on the sidelines and giving that energy and that positive attitude that we need leading our youth through sport. So I appreciate you, and good luck to you this summer and next year.
Thanks, Marcus. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach Pastner, for coming on and sharing all that knowledge with us. I said this in the beginning, the introduction. There's a lot of egos out there, and it's been really interesting to see. There's some people I reach out to, and they just kind of brush me off. They're like, oh, this is too small time. He's only getting 1,000, 2,000 views. I I admit I'm no Stephen A. Smith. I'm just me. I'm an analyst for the Missouri Valley Conference, but there's guys like Josh Pastner, that big time coach, Power 5 conference. And I'm telling you, I emailed the guy and I'm thinking, okay, he'll email me back in the next day or two. I mean, he emailed me back in 15 minutes. I emailed him back. He emailed me back. This whole deal was done in about 35 minutes. That doesn't happen at that level. I'm trying to tell you guys. So I really want to just give a shout out to him and thank him for just being a normal guy. And speaking of a normal guy, my next guest, head coach of Indiana State men's basketball, Greg Lansing. And this is a good friend of mine. Again, just a really cool guy. Like, you hear when people say, he seems like a guy that would just be cool to go have a beer with. That's Greg Lansing. Just as cool as they come, cool as a cucumber, nothing pretentious about him, treats everybody well. Josh Pastner and Coach Lansing have this same characteristic of treating the CEO like the janitor and the janitor like the CEO. Any of you who know me know I'm big into that, how you treat people that are perceived to be less than you. They don't have, any pretentiousness. So you're going to enjoy that. And the guy just has a wealth of knowledge. I mean, he's been, coach at Indiana State, Iowa, been doing this a while, won championships. And so, I think you're really going to enjoy it, especially, some of you guys who know me from the Missouri Valley Conference. This is an MVC coach taking it back there for you guys to kind of give you some insight on that. So hopefully you tune in and continue to support. That's all we can do. We all want to get better, right? We all want to get better. And to get better, you got to study the details, because greatness is in the details, guys. That's right. You already knew that was coming. Like, subscribe, share. Appreciate you guys' support. God bless. Peace.